right. Well, welcome. Excited to announce our signing class for our 2022 signing class, and that we're really excited about uh, the few guys that we added to complement the ones that we signed in December. And so having this is like deja vu, where we're having a press conference again on Zoom to discuss the rest of the signees, and we could probably go into more depth even with me after we talked to a few of these coaches to highlight some of the guys that we signed today. But really want to express my appreciation and gratitude to all our coaches and their families, hard work and sacrifice they made, time spent away from home to get out and recruit and get to know these young men. And want to express my gratitude to everybody that has been involved in the recruiting process, from everyone on campus, our faculty, staff, our recruiting department, with our director of recruiting, Jason Iu, and his staff, and Jack Demooney, and things that they've done for our official visits and throughout the whole recruiting process with these young men throughout the year. And really excited about our coaches. Really happy that our players have been able to interact with our fans on social media and in person, and how impressed our players, recruits have talked about how impressive our fan base has been. And so looking forward to getting on to the next one. But before we do that, we want to highlight these young men, and really excited to have them and their families part of our group and our family here at BYU, and just honored that their families would trust me as their head coach and the rest of our coaches to see them through their transition from being a young man into an adult, and to be able to accomplish a lot of things in academics, on the field, off the field, and definitely as a member of our football team. So with that being said, I want to turn time over to a few coaches. First, we'll start with Coach Funk. He'll discuss Lisalatai. Afterwards, Coach Preston Preston Hadley will be next, and then we'll finish with Coach Gennaro Guilford before I end the press conference. So on to you, Coach Funk.
Okay, well, we're excited, to have Lisalatai joining us, and he's a big man he's great on his feet, great athlete. Had been a defensive lineman, and still learning the position, and he has multiple years moving forward, and we're going to start to work on him immediately, getting him ready to compete this summer and this fall. But we're really excited about him.
Okay, Jared Lloyd, if you would like to ask a question, go ahead.
I assume I can ask either Kalani or Coach Funk.
Actually,
you guys both open?
No, we're ask the questions for Coach Funk right now.
Okay.
We'll have Kalani available once you've made the rounds through all of this.
Okay.
But any questions about Lasala or things related for Coach Funk for right now? Go ahead, Jared.
Just making sure I understood what the process was going to be. Coach, how do you feel about where the offensive line group is going, adding LaSalle to the rest of the group that you're bringing in?
Well, we're really excited moving to the future. We've got a lot of guys that have played a lot of football. Obviously losing James, and we wish him well, but everyone else is back. We've got multiple guys that have started. We have a handful of kids that only have a year left. And then some, maybe one or two, and then that's where I think LaSala really adds in, because he technically has 4 years to play his 3 years eligibility, but we'll ramp him up this summer when he gets here and teach him the system and get him ready to compete this fall. But I really feel good about the depth. I mean, it should be kind of obvious. We've because of the guys that we have added even since the season, with Kingsley and some other kids that you'll be hearing about. But really excited moving into the spring ball phase of the year. Anyone else? Sure, I can expand on it. Okay.
Yeah, Coach. When pursuing JC transfers, I know you mentioned LaSala's eligibility is unique. You still got 4 years to play 3. But what was it about pursuing him that would add value to the offensive line room? Could he contribute right away with this already being a deep room?
Absolutely, and it'll all depend on his how quick he learns the offense, how he develops this summer. But absolutely, he'll have that opportunity. But the thing that was always intriguing about LaSala, one, he had signed here before, so he obviously this was a place for him before. And then the second thing, being at a great program like Snow, and the job that Coach Erickson does up there, and Coach Atwell of developing him, because he in the spring season. He played sparingly. He had just been moved from defensive line, and so he's still learning the position. But when I see a kid like that, that's obviously a huge kid, 6'7" plus, whatever he weighs, that light on his feet, that athletic, and you just look at it, especially as long as I've coached a position, I've got this vision of him here this fall and then next year and beyond, of how he can develop and how he could be a super talent for this program. But he'll have opportunity right off the bat because, one, we are deep, but you saw last year how we had to have a next man up mentality. We had kids that when we had someone go down, another one came right in, and another one came right in, another one came right in. So, you always like to be deep for that reason. But I think he'll fit in great here. He knows a lot of the kids already, and just athletically, he's going to fit really well into what we need a big guy to do. So I think he's a great fit for us. A lot of people might say, well, why do you need a JC kid with all those returning starters and everything? Well, I'm not a short-sighted person, and Kalani isn't either. We're looking not only to next year, but into the Big 12 and beyond, and I think he's a great add for that reason.
We'll take a question from Sean Walker and then Dave McCann.
Yeah, Coach, you actually touched on this a little bit, but LaSala is one of those guys who it's kind of unique because he did sign with BYU initially way back in 2016 or 18 or whatever it was. Almost, I think it was like 3 years ago. And then he goes on a mission, then goes off to Snow, and now comes back. Does that kind of a sort of background, I guess, with BYU kind of change in any way how you recruit him? Just because he's got the prior experience with the program, now it's about kind of making sure that he's still the right fit with you kind of in your, I guess, still newish role on the O-line?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely do your homework and you still check them out. We went through a lot of information gathering and different things and talking with Coach, and I'd been up there to see him and I watched all the tape. You still do that just because he came here before and signed before doesn't automatically mean he's a fit now. But in his case, yes, it's a perfect fit. And we had to work through, we did everything that we needed to. And LaSala and I have got to know each other very well, and his family's a great family, and we did everything that you normally do with a recruit. We didn't just say, okay, well, he came here before, he'll automatically come. We had a great visit last weekend. Our assistant coaches and Kalani have been great, and we team recruit here anyway. But but if that answers your question, I think we've covered every step of what we need to do to make sure he's still a fit, and he is, and we're excited about that.
Go ahead, Dave.
Hey, Coach, this is your first Big 12 recruiting class, and I see 11 guys that are either on the offensive or defensive lines. What impact did the Baylor game have with the game decided at the line of scrimmage? What impact did the Baylor game have on the efforts and the approach of this recruiting class as you move into joining that league?
Well, as far as I've looked at it, and I haven't been here very long, I've always considered BYU a place that you recruit at a Power 5 level. So to me, just because that announcement was made mid-season, and that's a great conference and all those things, I was still looking for that type of player anyway, and I know our other coaches were as well. Now, that being said, because they were a good football team and a stout defense, it does make you think, hey, whoever we move forward with has got to have that type of ability, obviously, to compete at that level. And whether it was LaSala or adding Kingsley or adding any of the freshmen, I look back at them all and had that announcement been made before that, and we knew that, I would have recruited them all because I think the class that we took, we've got a lot of athleticism. Almost every guy that we've talked about has played defense at one point, which to me is huge. All you got to do is look at our linemen that play here and start here. Several of them been defensive linemen in the past. They've been tight ends in the past. So we're looking for that elite athleticism, and I think we've got that. And but I definitely like this whole class. But LaSala fits that too. Like I said, if you watch his tape, and I've watched his workouts and different things, he's 6'7" plus 3. Probably 35 is what he would probably weigh at last spring, and whether he'll play it that weight or not, I don't even worry about that now. That's a big man with light on his feet and an elite athlete, and that's what we're going to need in that league to compete. So like I said, to kind of wrap up the question, ever since the first day that I came here, I was looking for that elite type of player anyway. So it all fits in with what we ended up doing in our class.
Do you have questions for him? If you please raise your hand. Start with Jared Boyd.
Hey, Preston.
Hey, what's going on, Jared? How you doing?
Well, give us a breakdown. What do you see from Zoom as you prepare to have him join your group?
We first found Zoom out in camp. He really stood out. I mean, the first time I saw him was from afar. I just seen this giant of a kid just kind of gliding across the field as we were breaking out into our different groups. And I mean, he's all 6'8", and football is still new to him. I mean, I think this was actually his third year playing football, and I mean, he could play on the offense or defensive lines. But he's big and he's athletic, and he's really heavy-handed, and he has a lot of grown man strength already. So he's what we classify as a developmental player, and we're just looking forward to getting him into the program, in the weight room, eating, lifting, and developing. But he's got a really high ceiling, and we're really excited just about his potential and his future.
I was looking across the board. It looks like you've got 5 guys, I think, that are officially listed in the class that are officially listed on the D line. And as you look at this group coming in, do you put a lot of them in that same category as far as developmental guys? Or you see guys there that you think are going to contribute, or what are your thoughts as you look at the group as a whole?
As far as how early they contribute, I think that's on the player, and we just have a big emphasis on recruiting length and athleticism and getting guys bigger and stronger. And so that's what we've really tried to do in this class. I mean, you go through our list. I mean, we have 2 players listed at 6'8". We have a 6'6", a 6'5" kid, and then we have a really athletic player in Ice Moa. So I think it's just up to the individual himself as far as how fast they develop and how their body reacts to the workouts and the training that we do. But really, I mean, football in general it's a game of development, and so it's just a matter of how fast you can develop these players into game ready.
Next, we'll take questions from Mitch Harper.
Coach, what is it about maybe developmental prospects that have worked in recent seasons at BYU?
Well, I mean, just a year ago we had 5 guys drafted, and if you go and look at, I know everyone wants to make a big deal about stars and everything, but, I think you just look at the success that we've had over these last couple of years. We have a lot of players who are making a lot of plays for us and really impacting the games for us, who didn't have the stars, but they did have the measurables, the length, the speed, the athleticism, the things that we look for. And then, as coaches, that it becomes on us to develop that, and so just our track record, we're able to develop more NFL players than BYU's had in recent years past. And so, like I said, we look for guys that have those measurements and measurables to get in the NFL, and then, like I said, it's on us to develop them.
Do you think there has to be more star chasing going into the Big 12 conference, or is it still a trust in your evaluations?
I think it's about just trusting in your own evaluation. I mean, if stars mattered, all these marquee programs that have this rich tradition of doing some big things after the in the postseason. You know, I'm not going to name any specific schools, but you would see them in the playoffs each year, but you don't. You know, and so it really, if Stars were all that it was cracked up to be by a lot of people out there, you'd see those teams, you know. And so we just take a lot of pride in trusting our own evaluation, and even if we're the only team to offer them, I mean, we know what we're looking for, and we know how to develop them, and it's just, we have a proven track record. It's been tested now, and it's proven just based off the result from last season. You know, 5 of those guys got drafted. There's a handful of them who are still on NFL rosters who went undrafted. And so the program's moving in the right direction, just following this model. And just the fact that we're going in the Big 12, we're not going to change. You know, we're going to continue to be try and be the best at evaluating that we can, but we're going to just continue to elevate and just focus on our own evaluation. We're not going to go chasing stars, you know. So I know everyone gets all worked up about recruiting class and everything, but you know, those don't always correlate, and at least not with us. I can't speak for other programs, but with us, you know, we've just it's a proven system that works.
Okay, Coach Hadley, thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Yep, thank you.
Coach Guilford, and he'll be answering questions about the DBs. If you have questions for Coach, please raise your hand. Start with Mitch, and then Casey.
Yeah, Coach, you know, of the 3 defensive backs that were officially announced today, which one might be in the best position based on what they accomplished in their high school careers to maybe contribute immediately in year 1?
Honestly, all of them. They all have to come and compete. They all have to come and show what they can do. Everything you do in high school is great, but who's to say the least talented one doesn't come in the most ready and ready to prove itself? I mean, they can all play. It's just up to them to come and compete.
Hey, Coach, question for you. This year you brought in a few guys from the high school ranks. Last year you brought in a few from the transfer portal. How do you balance, from a scholarship perspective, dipping into the portal versus the traditional high school recruiting route?
Just try to make sure everything is spread out, you know. So we brought in the high school guys this year because we have some upperclassmen. So now the high school guys can learn from the upperclassmen, give them a chance to kind of understand and learn everything we do. So they'll have a year to learn under those guys. You know, I have some upperclassmen like Caleb, D-Lo, and Isaiah, and guys like that. So now the young guys can come and learn. And then once those guys leave, the expectations are they kind of step into those guys' place.
Okay, next we'll take some questions from Jared Lloyd, and then Jay Drew, followed by Sean Walker.
Hey, Gennaro.
How you doing?
Good, man. We just talked to Preston. Preston was talking about the measurables and how, you know, talking defensive line specifically, but what measurables do you look at when you're looking at defensive backs? What are the things that you're trying to evaluate and look at and say, okay, these are the things we need these guys to have so they can contribute and learn and grow at the college level?
Yeah. You know what? Speed, length, changing direction, ball skills, open field tackling, and just guys who love the game, guys who are competitive. If they have those things, I feel it makes our job a lot easier to make that transition from high school or JC to this level.
Go ahead, Jay.
Gennaro, what's the story behind landing a guy from Oklahoma? We usually don't see you guys sign a lot of guys from Oklahoma.
No, yeah, for sure. You know what? I have a lot of friends out there. I worked camps in Oklahoma with a friend who was coaching at Oklahoma for about 3 years every summer. I probably have honestly about 4 or 5 friends who are head coaches out there, and they know the type of kids that we're looking for. And they wouldn't just put anybody's name out there. So they brought a few guys to the table, and he happened to be one. And so we had to do our homework to see if he was a good fit. Academically, great fit, comes from a great family, And then of course he can play, competitive, a speed guy, who loves to compete. So it was through a friend that kind of gave me his name and film and stuff like that. And as a staff, we did our homework. The rest is history.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, Coach, kind of a similar question about Corbin. Just from talking to him a little bit and kind of how he describes it, it feels like the way you guys recruited him was sort of at just at warp speed, at light speed. Like you kind of just barely met this kid fairly recently and whatnot. Can you kind of go through? I mean, has it really been that, I guess, that short of amount of time? And was he one of those guys who it didn't take long for you to realize, like, this is a BYU kid that we really want in our program?
Yeah, it was probably about a 2.5 month a span, but at the same time, again, knowing people in the area, knowing his head coach, a former Division I head coach at the University of Tulsa, he has a lot of insight on what kids can do and what type of kids can make it. So he's a trustworthy guy, a guy that I absolutely trust. Talk to him, and he wouldn't put his name on him for the first few months. He said that he had to get to know him first, and he just put his name on him. Honestly, the last 2 months, saying that it's a great kid, comes from a great family, handles his schoolwork, and it's a kid that can absolutely make it here at BYU.
We have time for a question from Mitch and then David.
Yeah, Coach. Back in December, Kalani noted that defensive backs was going to be an area of focus for this February signing day. Now, with these additions signed and delivered, are you now content with this group going into spring and ultimately the 2022 season, or will you still have a look at the portal still going into the off season further?
There's always a possibility to bring in guys, but as of right now, I mean, we're very content with the guys we have. But absolutely, I mean, if we have a chance to get better, then I mean, that's what we have to do.
Go ahead, Dave.
Gennaro, what's your best recruiting story out there as BYU as a Big 12 member opposed to BYU as an independent? What have you noticed from the kids you're recruiting?
Honestly, it's really the same. To be totally honest with you, the only difference is they say if you guys have a year like you guys had last year, you guys are pretty much being the BCS bowl games. But for the most part, man, the school has done a great job of putting us out there as far as social media, and the following is great. So the kids kind of know that it's a great place to be. But now it's just a fact that we can go to a BCS game if we win our conference. But that's the only difference.
Gennaro, thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time today.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Who is available for questions? If you have a question for him, please raise your hand. We'll start with Jared Lloyd.
Kalani, we talked in December about how the class in the early signing class was very local centric, Utah mostly, a little bit Arizona, and now this class is California centric with also the addition of Corbin from Oklahoma. Why the difference? Is that just how it played out?
Yeah, I think sometimes it plays out that way. I think we're looking to add more as well. You know, I failed to mention that earlier, is that regardless of where they come from, I think the key is that we have access to so much film and access to just a lot of people. And you move this way, access to a lot of resources that are out there that can speak for these young recruits. And so whether they're from Oklahoma or Arizona or California or Utah, we just need to make sure that they can help us on and off the field and really be a driving force for our culture. So recruiting is one of those things that's going to always be a big part of what we do, and it's a daily thing for us. But the and so there's been the difference now is that there's been a strong push from a lot of places. I think Gennaro was hitting up on it a little bit, where people are talking about us being new to the Big 12. I think people are just inquiring more about our school and what we're about, and then they find out that they see the presence that we have with the strong fan base, and then it's just the curiosity has kind of grown into allowing us to get into more homes and to review more people and actually have a bigger pool of recruits to go to, and so that's been really helpful. But the natural movement for our recruiting is that there's a high sense of urgency, so every roster spot needs to be recruited. And so the next little bit, you'll probably see more DBs added, and then you'll see a good number of people. We're held to the signing limit, and so we have to be creative with missions and all those things, and and with preferred walk-on spots, on how we organize all that. And so it takes a lot of work, and that's something that we have to just be flexible with. And then we're dealing with players that get home from their missions and see what kind of shape they're in, if it benefits them to gray shirt or to start right away. All that factors into this. But I think the biggest thing that I see, the biggest improvement, is that there's this large number of interest in preferred walk-ons that want to be at the school. And if looking at, I can't say anything about the preferred walk-ons, but there's a lot of size, speed, and athleticism in that group as well.
Okay, next we'll have questions from Casey and then Mitch.
Yeah, Coach, you touched on this just a little bit, but you guys have dipped your toes into the Midwest now, and more people are inquiring from that area about BYU now that we'll be joining the Big 12. Do you want to make the Midwest part of your core recruiting footprint moving forward, or will it be kind of traditional West Coast, California, and occasionally going out there like you did this class?
Our core recruiting base will be the members of the church. So the athletes that are members will look that way first, and then obviously I think it's important for us to span the entire country. You look at the conference that we're in, UCF is in Florida, so we might as well head that way as well, and might as well look in a little bit with Texas. And so the key is for us is that we're always going to have this strong membership following, and so we need to look there, because more than anything, there's always connection and an interest right away. But there's also a lot of interest in other places too, and people that aren't members that will represent well, and they live this lifestyle here at BYU. They value the honor code, and they are excited about the academics and the degree that BYU gives them. And so that's what we're finding out, is that there's a lot of non-members that are really interested in our school and what we have to offer with the honor code and what the school is all about, the mission of our school, and then also really excited with the football team. So that being said, it'd be foolish of us not to go down that path of recruiting, widening the net a little bit more in recruiting and seeing the other possible candidates. But I think our strong core, we will start within our membership first, and they happen to be a lot of members in the state of Utah, Arizona, California, and there's enough out there in Florida, Texas, other places that we can go to as well. But basically, I think we have to recruit the whole world and have a good foundation of LDS athlete.
Kalani, your program's had a lot of success since you took over with developmental prospects, including like a Tyler Algier who came in as a PWO. Do you feel like that model can still have success into the Big 12 era?
Yeah, I think the model is that you have 85 scholarship athletes, and then you have another 38 to 40 that you can add to the roster. And so when you have a history of great walk-ons becoming have an opportunity to play and even move on to the next level and be a known name. I mean, Dax Milne was a walk-on as well. So you look at the walk-ons that have a chance to get drafted. It's going to be a pretty good string here, you know. And so when players have to now they're looking at the options to say, okay, well, if I go to BYU as a walk-on, there's a high chance if I do it the way I feel I can and I'm confident in my abilities, that if I do well in school and do well on the field and get into the depth chart, that I'll possibly get a scholarship. And that's we try to recruit from within first, and then they see that that it's not just all talk. That you can be a walk-on from California and not be a member and still be a starter and a star here and even have a chance to move on to the next level.
Sean and then Kevin, next questions.
Yeah, Coach, just kind of sticking on that theme of sort of the PWO program, I guess. Are you seeing a little bit more of an emphasis from some of these recruits who maybe they're a little bit more willing to, and I don't even know if willing is the right word, but I'm going to use it for lack of a better word, kind of willing to sort of take a chance on themselves, bet on themselves as a preferred walk-on, rather than, you know, maybe another sure thing out there, just because of kind of what you guys have been able to do recently with guys like Tyler, guys like Dax, and then also just historically going back to like the Chad Lewises of the day way back when. Like, are you seeing kids that are kind of maybe more willing to kind of go that route lately, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak especially for this group, and it's still a process, right? When you're looking at preferred walk-on spots, every roster spot has to be recruited, and that with that statement, you're trying to add more depth, and then your selling point is actually the culture of the team, the opportunities that they have, and you just have to be really honest with them. There's no promise of a scholarship, but there's promise that you get what you deserve, and for a lot of people, that's all they want to hear. And we have guys that are going to be willing to turn down scholarships from other schools to come here as a preferred walk-on, and that's a good sign that we're doing things right, and that's a good sign that we're finding the right people that are interested and want to be part of this school, BYU life, and they want to be a student athlete here, with the emphasis on being a student as well. So that's the key. There's a lot of people that are out there that want to be here and want to be in this environment, and they feel that they can thrive and achieve their goals being here, and they can find themselves at their best. And that's what we're selling to them, and it helps when you have a lot of good examples to go off of. And I know we're picking Tyler and others, but there's a lot of others that have come here and found a lot of success too, on and off the field.
You mentioned the signing limit. I'm just curious how close you are to that right now and how you're balancing that. And then just a second question, you mentioned Texas and Florida. How many resources do you want to put into recruiting those areas of the country rather than, you know, Utah and Arizona and California?
Well, in terms of resources, there's this technology is helping out a lot in that, right? And for us, the connection and people that we know in all areas in high school football and JC football, the country, that helps too. So the resources for us is just more bodies to spread out to those areas and broaden our recruiting net. And so that's what we're looking forward to add into our program, and we're getting there. And I'm really excited because I feel like, you know, if you have the bodies and you have we don't need guys so spread out where they can't really focus and master one thing. And now we're going to be able to have that opportunity to do that with the added resources, the added hires that we're going to have on our staff. And yeah, what was the question before that? I can't remember the.
Just the signing limit.
Oh yeah, signing limit. We have a few spots left, so obviously we're going to use them all. And yeah, so I think in maybe even today or in the next couple of weeks we'll have some people added to the team and provide some depth for us. And we'll see what happens after spring ball and after this winter semester on where guys stand in the program. And if there's others that are looking for opportunities to play earlier, if this is the right place for them or not. And we'll see. With a bunch of return missionaries coming home, there's a lot of opportunities for our depth to get better.
Got time for a couple more questions, so we'll take questions from Jay Drew and then Dave McCann, and the final question from Mitch Harper.
Yeah, Kalani, Mitch asked the question I was going to about the developmental model of players continuing. So I guess I'll just say congratulations on being a dad again and pass it on to the next question.
Thanks, Jay. I'm really excited. I mean, after the initial shock, my wife and I were really fired up. We're so excited to have another child, and there's an age gap from the youngest. It'll be 12 years, but anything to help me be young again. But more than anything, I really love being a father, and so looking forward to all the tough times, but the good times will overshadow it. So thank you very much.
Hey, we've got a great nursery in the Foothill Ward. If you want to move back in, Coach, we'll make some space for you. Question I have, I want to follow up on what I asked Coach Funk. What blueprint did Baylor give you for succeeding in the Big 12, and does this class and the one you're working on for next year take you in that direction?
Well, it helps out that we know a lot what they're doing on offense, so looking at what Baylor's done, and we knew that they were a good team when we played them, and they won the championship. That's what we want to be. They set the standard. There's a lot of really good teams in that conference, and we have to chase it. And so there's many things that need to happen between now and 2023, but I'm only focused on 2022, making sure that our team is ready for this season, and really just looking forward to getting our guys better and learning a lot of lessons that happened from 21. Just so many young guys received the experience. I think it's going to be really helpful for us, but it will only be an advantage if we make it one. So there has to be a deliberate approach in how we strategize on what's going to be the best schemes, plays on offense, defense, and special teams, along with personnel, and then develop our players to make sure we provide plenty of depth, because you saw from years past and even this last year that things could really happen in that aspect. And then trying to find ways to improve, involve other resources like sports scientists into our training, just evaluate so many different ways that we can keep our guys healthy in a very physical and violent sport. We're doing it in so many different areas, and I think if you able to get that done, I named a few things that takes a lot of work and a lot of resources, and luckily we have a commitment from our administration to provide that. So I'm looking forward to getting that in place and then moving on with it, and then making it an advantage for us to be stronger and be able to compete with Baylor.
Kalani, you mentioned the returning missionaries. We know about the winter returnees that have already matriculated in January. One of the names that I wanted to ask you, though, Kate Albright, you noted him back in fall that he was going to be a January enrollee. Is he going to be part of the program at all? And also, who are some of those other fall return missionaries, a few of them that you are expecting as of right now?
Yeah, so if players aren't on the roster or aren't performing for us in spring, then they're usually just dealing with injury, and they were great missionaries. They went out there and served and did everything they could to help others and promote the message and of love and through Christ. And so their last thought was about football, and sometimes they sacrifice quite a bit, meaning their own health. And so we're waiting for our players to slowly transition into an opportunity to play football, which is going to be hard. And it's not, you can't just go from serving a mission to, even that transition to training for football is hard, right? So it's a good thing that we have a head coach that served a mission and know what that's all about, and a high number of coaches that have served missions. Our strength coach was a return missionary himself as well, so this helps out, So And I think the missionaries, their mindset is that they can play right now, but their bodies, we need to make sure we get their bodies right. So if they're not in it right now, then usually they're just we're trying to get them ready. So there's going to be a number of players, Mitch, that are going to come home throughout in the next, I don't know, March till July, and even August, and some of them won't be ready to go until January. And so we will put them, they'll gray shirt, they'll take a couple classes, and then they'll work out, and they'll be in a workout program that'll get them ready to train in the off season in January 2023, and then to prepare to play in the fall of 23. But there'll be some that'll be a little bit more ready, and but in our research and in the experience that we've had, the numbers show that when missionaries come home in the summer, they all get hurt in the fall, and that's tough to have young men get hurt and then have to spend off season rehabbing rather than conditioning and getting stronger, and that puts them behind. And so we learn from what we've already seen in years past and try to make sure our guys are in a better position. And the safest thing is to count on them to gray shirt. Also working with COVID numbers and the roster numbers and the eligibility, extra year eligibility, that adds a little bit more to it. And we have to, because of our mission program, because of the extra year with COVID, we probably have to do a lot more balancing than others.
And just a real quick follow-up with the COVID numbers, players this year that came back, they count towards the 85 scholarships. Is that correct?
Yeah, yep, that's right. So you're not allowed to, you're not going to be able to add as many as you wanted before, and so the emphasis is hurry up and develop, and there's a huge sense of urgency from the entire program and from myself too, where we know we want to be as best as we can, and that includes all 123 players. There's just no more just have a guy out there to be a tackling dummy. That doesn't work. Everybody on this roster needs to have a purpose and a role, and have an opportunity that we see them performing on the field in the near future. And that's the emphasis. And it's tough to narrow it down, but because we have so many players that want to be here and so many that want to try out and want to prove themselves, and that's a good problem to have, though, that we have to choose from a bunch of players that want to be here rather than having it where there's only, you're just filling in bodies with just people that just show up.
Thanks.
Coach, thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Miss you guys, man. Go Cougs. Thank you.